Namaste. I must thank to Dr. Ashok Kumar and all Olympic group that they have given me the opportunity to speak on this particular occasion. Today we are celebrating the World Zoonosis Day. Now, when the life on the earth has begun, in the beginning, the animals and plants, they are dependent on each other. And in the beginning, the name has been given as a association. First of all, the term association has come into existence, and that too living associations. But later on, when animal depends on animals, that particular association has been called as the animal associations. And parasitic zoonosis or the zoonosis disease is a result of that particular thing, that when two animals live together, some sharing must be going on. So some beneficial things will come, some other things will also come. So the detrimental things which used to be shared by the animals in between them in the association, we call it as a zoonosis. So today is the World Zoonosis Day. Now in the beginning, I want to make it clear that the topic today which I am interested to cover is parasitic zoonosis. A little bit not much related with this particular subject, that is the sheep and goat, but of course I am going to cover the parasites of having zoonotic importance in relation to sheep and goat. But I will try to make this particular topic live. And second thing, the organizer has told me that this particular group aims to share the knowledge with the field veterinarians. And I have taken that much care that I have covered so much the things which are required only from the angle of field point, which is required by the field veterinarian. And that's why I have not gone in detail much about the scientific type of the information or scientific details. Now, two more requests are there, that in this particular presentation, whatever the pictures, life cycles, everything which I have downloaded from the internet information. So please refer it as a sake of knowledge sharing, but please don't use it for any type of the falsification. I am very sorry to request this thing. And the second thing is that the parasitic zoonosis in this, all the types of the parasites which are having the zoonotic importance will be covered, but I will not give any type of the stress other than the parasites. Only zoonotic important parasites will be covered. Now let us go into the actual subject. In the India, which is the second most densely inhabited and seventh largest country. Now you know, just now we are experiencing the corona. Now as much thick we are facing so many problems. And zoonosis is also a result of that, that as we are thickly living together, the zoonoses are going to be shared. We have got a lot of variation in terms of geographic area, ethnicity, religion, food habits, personal behavior, level of education, and standard of living. All these together contributes to the zoonosis. In the recent census, country showed that 72.2% population lives in rural areas. And almost 70% of the population is owning livestock. That means more than 50% population of India is having one or two at least livestock. And these are the days has come that particularly the people used to maintain the sheep and goat as a small ruminants. The parasitic zoonosis affect human as well as animal health directly, indirectly, and as a socio-economic factor. Poor economic conditions, sanitation, poor water supply, personal habits, all these things, they used to contribute for this particular parasitic zoonosis. And in parasitic zoonosis, these factors are much more important. I tell you, the parasitic zoonosis totally differ from the other, that is the bacterial, viral, like that. Because you see, when you are going to study the bacterial, viral viruses, only you have to think about the two factors. Which animal, from which animal to the human being or human to animal. But in this case, when you are thinking about the parasitic zoonosis, it is somewhat complicated one. In between intermediate host, definitive host, and so many other vectors, so many other things, they used to come together and it becomes a more complex thing. Hence, to address anything related to the parasite, it is somewhat tricky job, and I will try to make it simplified one so that the basic fundamentals of this particular parasitic zoonoses, which are required by for the field veterinarians, that I will try to cover it. Now, what is the historical background? Just now it has been told that how the zoonosis term has come into existence. Virchow in 1855 has used the first time the term zoonoses, and then thereby Galli-Valerio, who has published the first magazine on this, and in 1959, the first time the World Health Organization, they have defined this particular term as a zoonosis. And in that particular zoonosis, the disease transmissible or intertransmissible from human to animal and animal to human, they have been termed as a zoonotic diseases. Now, few facts about the parasitic zoonosis. The pathogenic species responsible for zoonotic diseases can survive. 1 minute. Can survive without the, can survive, and which is I'm sorry, somewhat disturbance is there. Okay, thank you. And multiply without the presence of man. Means man is not mandatory that should be involved in this. In most of the cases, man is a dead end host and therefore not even useful for the propagation of the pathogenic agent. The only known exception to this rule are, now the parasites are exception to this. The only known exception to this rule are Tenia solium and Tenia Saginata, for which man is the only one definite host. And together with other mammals, they also share few more parasites, that is Diphyllobothrium latum, Paragonimus, Sarcocystis, and for some cystosomes, human being is the only definite host. And hence, these particular zoonoses, that is Tenia solium, Tenia saginata, Diphyllobothrium latum, more particularly Sarcocystis, and few cystosomes, these zoonoses only can be shared in the nature as and when there is existence of the human being. Otherwise, for rest of the zoonoses, though man is involved in that, but its mandatory presence for the existence is not required. Only zoonoses in which man is more important host than the other 180 mammalian host species is Tagad disease. Very important Tagad disease, that is Tripanos cruzi. And one fact I want to say here, except protozoon zoonoses and sparganosis, no other zoonoses are intertransmissible between intermediate host to intermediate host. One example I want to quote here. Suppose the one intermediate host, goat, is suffering from hydatid cyst. Can that hydatid cyst will be transmitted to the human being? No, because for hydatid cyst, for Echinococcus granulosus, human being as well as the goat, both are acting as the intermediate host. And hence, hydatid cyst infection of one intermediate host cannot be transmitted to the another intermediate host. This particular fact, why I am stressing out, many times even from the field veterinarians also, this question is always for Tenia solium and for Tenia saginata. The human being is a definite host. In that case, the requirement of the human being and from human to the animal and animal to human being is here. Internet is always, but for hydatid cyst, intertransmission between intermediate host to intermediate host is not possible. This fact must be known. Now, coming to the few definitions. I am sorry that most of the participants, they are very learned, they are subject matter specialists, and they will ask me why you are covering such definitions. But I am very sorry. But to understand the parasitic zoonoses, the definition or the understanding of these two terms, definition or the understanding of these two terms, is very important. Definition or the understanding of these two terms is very important. Definition or the understanding of these two terms is very important. Definition or the understanding of these two terms is very important. Definition or the understanding of these two terms is very important. Definition or the understanding of these two terms is very important. Definition or the understanding of these two terms is very important. Definition or the understanding of these two terms is very important. Definition or the understanding of these two terms is very important. Definition or the understanding of these two terms is very important. Definition or the understanding of these two terms is very important. Definition or the understanding of these two terms is very important. Definition or the understanding of these two terms is very important. Definition or the understanding of these two terms is very important. Definition or the understanding of these two terms is very important. Definition or the understanding of these two terms is very important. Definition or the understanding of these two terms is very important. Definition or the understanding of these two terms is very important. Definition or the underst definitive host and intermediate host is very, very necessary. Without knowing which is the definitive host and which is the intermediate host, it is highly impossible to share the things about the parasitic zoonosis. So definitive host is host in which parasite can attain maturity, can reproduce sexually, and pass on its exogenous stages, that is the eggs or ova, in the excretion, secretion, nasal discharges, lacrimal discharges, or blood. The definitive host in which the only parasite can pass these particular stages, whereas in the intermediate host, this particular thing is not possible, because in the intermediate host, parasite can grow for a longer duration, but it can only attain that particular maturity which is ready for infection to the definitive host. And for parasitic zoonoses, human being as well as the sheep, goat, cattle, buffalo, or many other animals, they can act as an intermediate host. Hence, intermediate host and definitive host, these two terms, they are more important one. And for many protozoa, for many tapeworm zoonoses, dog and cat acts as a definitive host, and human being, including human being, other domesticated animals, they act as intermediate host. So these two definitions are very important one. That's why I have covered. Then reservoir host is one more definition. This is a additional source of infection. And then paratenic host. The paratenic host, if it is not there, then also the life cycle. Some basic things about the classification parasitic zoonosis diseases. According to the causative agent, the zoonotic diseases are classified: bacterial, viral, rickettsial, protozoal, helminthic, fungal, and ectoparasites. So ectoparasitic zoonoses are also there. The examples I have cited here, no need to go in detail about that. Then coming to the according to the reservoir host. Just now we have seen what is reservoir host. According to the reservoir host, there are three definitions. Anthropozoonosis. That means these are the infection transmitted to man from lower vertebrates. Whereas contrary to that, zooanthroponosis, that is from man to the lower vertebrates. And in amphizoonoses, from man to animal, animal to man, vice versa, things are possible. So anthropozoonosis, zooanthroponosis, and amphizoonoses, these are based on the classification reservoir host. Coming to the, according to the mode of transmission, direct zoonosis, that means by direct contact. Cyclozoonosis, that means these require more than one vertebrate host or species, without which the transmission of this cyclozoonosis disease is not possible. Then metazoonosis means one invertebrate vector is involved in that. Without one invertebrate vector, the disease transmission from one vertebrate host to human being or human being to one invertebrate host is not possible. And then saprozoonosis, in saprozoonosis, some non-animal material like soil. Suppose you can take the example Toxoplasma canis. This Toxoplasma canis infection is of dog, and the children may get the infection. We call it as a visceral larva migrans. But to occur this particular infection, the eating of the soil by the children is necessary. That means one non-animal source is required for the transmission of this particular diseases. So we call it as a saprozoonosis. Now there is further classification of this. Coming to the cyclozoonosis. The cyclozoonosis, that is, one is obligatory and one is non-obligatory. In obligatory, human being is the must. Take example, Tania solium or Tania Saginata. Human being is the definite host. That's why without existence of this particular human being, this particular cyclozoonosis cannot be completed. And non-obligatory cyclozoonosis means human, though it is a part, because if human is not involved, how we can say that this is a zoonotic disease? But human is one intermediate host. Take example. All domesticated animal, including the human being. That means if human being is involved, zoonosis will occur. Otherwise, the life cycle of that parasite can be possible. So this is non-obligatory cyclozoonosis. Coming to the subclassification of metazoonosis. Metazoonosis type 1, the disease require one invertebrate and one vertebrate host. Take example, Typhoidium caninum, dog, human, these are the definitive host. Fleas, lice as an intermediate host. Then metazoonosis type 2, it requires two invertebrate and one vertebrate host. That is the Paragonimosis. That is the pig, man, dog, cat, dog, goat as a definite host. An intermediate host is a snail, first intermediate host. Second intermediate host is crustacea or crab or crustacean. Then metazoonosis type 3, that is required one invertebrate and two vertebrate hosts. And the fourth category is metazoonosis type 4, required trans-ovarian transmission like Babesia divergens. This particular classification is obtained from one book, that is the Zoonosis book, written by a very eminent scientist in parasitology, Dr. Purijuel sir, who has just shared his best wishes also. So the classification is obtained from his book. He is a big scientist in our parasitology. Now, saprozoonosis. It requires non-animate material. That definition we have already seen. Now, this is again also of three categories. Saproanthropozoonosis means animals principally act as reservoir host, and the etiological reagents are transmitted from animals to man through inanimate material. Example, cutaneous larva migrans or visceral larva migrans. This is the just example I have quoted. Then saproamphigenosis. Both animals and human could act as a reservoir host, and the etiological agent are transmitted through animate objects. Probably micronemosis, that is the Micronema deletrix, that is through vegetation, its transmission occurs. And then the last category of saprozoonosis is saprometanthropozoonosis. It requires vertebrate host, invertebrate host, inanimate substance, and example is the fascioliasis, because the Circadia of this fascioliasis, fasciola, are shared either in the water or on the grass plant, and then they are shared to the other host. So this is the sub-classification we have taken. Now coming to the classification of parasitic zoonosis based on etiological agent. Protozoon zoonosis, when trematodes are involved, we call trematode, then cystode, then nematode, and then arthropode. Actually, for arthropods, we can consider it as a zoonosis. But arthropods play a role like a catalyst for the transmission of zoonotic diseases. But they cause the zoonotic diseases, that is the arthropod zoonosis. Then principal, based on the principal host involved. Cattle related, sheep goat related, pig related, then fish related. Most of the trematodal type of the zoonotic parasitic diseases, they are fish-borne or fish-related. Then dog-related, cat-related, dog and cat plays an important role in the parasitic zoonosis, and then raccoon-related parasitic zoonosis. Then wildlife, just monkeys, that is the malaria of simian origin, wild cats, toxoplasmosis, wild felids, biliascariosis, wild boar, trichinosis, then raccoons, biliascariosis. Then domiciliated animal-related parasitic zoonosis like rodents or reptiles, that is the Babesia microti, spurganosis, very important one, transmitted from amphibians. Now those who are consuming the amphibians, this particular type of the disease occurs, that is gnathostomosis and spurganosis. Not much prevalent, where the amphibians are used as much food, where that particular disease do exist. That is the spurganosis or gnathostomosis. Coming to the pet animal related, dog and cat, then fish or crab or mollusk related, that is also we have seen just now. And then waterborne, milk-borne, raw vegetable and plant-borne. This is the when you consume the totally vegetable as a raw. Then reptile, amphibian. This is a sort of repetition, but I have covered it. Then soil transmitted, particularly cutaneous larva migras and visceral larva migras comes under this particular thing, that is the soil transmitted. And then vector-borne diseases. Mosquito is our very good friend, and it takes care of these vector-borne diseases. That is the true mosquito or other phlebotomous flies like that. Then food-borne, then fish-borne and meat-borne. Now here one fact we'll see. I just want to post some few about the parasitic zoonosis diseases. And I have categorized these parasitic zoonosis under 4 heads. The parasitic zoonosis of high zoonotic importance: Toxoplasmosis, Neurocystocercosis, Echinococcus or Tenniasis, or we call it as a cysticercosis. Of course, Neurocystocercosis is a part of Tenniasis or cysticercosis. So in all total, these 3 are very important ones. Coming to the parasitic zoonosis of dreaded nature, or they are of annoying nature, or they make the nuisance for the human being. Means they are such a, they can exist in the human body to such a duration, you will surprise to listen. Amoebiasis and giardiasis. Once you suffer from amoebiasis or giardiasis, at least they will be friend for you for 25 valuable years of your life. Then same is the case with the Tenniasis. And then arthropod-borne. They are also very important one, though they may be for shorter duration, but they also cause the nuisance. Coming to the parasites of life-threatening nature, that means they threaten to the life. Even your survival or calm and quiet survival is hampered due to this particular parasites. That is the Toxoplasmosis, Neurocystocercosis, and Echinococcus. Now, once the Echinococcus hydrated cyst, if it is developed on the brain, the prognosis is always guarded, and that too operation is highly costing, and that's why these are life-threatening type of the parasites. Coming to the parasitic zoonosis of economic significance, and these are the important one from the goat point of view, from the pig point of view, that is the sarcocystosis, trichinellosis, and cysticercosis. That is the cysticercus cellulosis. So these 3 are of economic significance. That means they occur in the muscles of these food animals. Take example, sheep, goat, or the pig, and their carcasses are downgraded due to the presence of these parasites in the muscles of these animals. And that's why the big carcasses are condemned, and that's why they are of economic significance. Now coming to the factors which are influencing the prevalence of zoonosis. The first factor is, this is the information I have taken from the National Center of this, ecological changes in the man's environment. This is a very important factor related with this global warming also, or related with the encroachment of human being to the nature. And the best example I can quote, that is the KFD disease, that is the Kaiserner foray disease. It is transmitted by 3 host tick, Haemaphysalis spiningera. Now, friends, let us imagine why Haemaphysalis spiningera has entered into the human dwelling. The reason is that we are encroaching their dwelling. Now they are compelled to enter in your dwelling, and that's why we are taking so many type of infections due to the encroachment in the dwelling of other animals. So I will read this. With the expansion of human population, man is forced to exploit the virgin territories and natural resources, like harnessing the power, constructing roads and pipelines to virgin or thinly populated areas, clearing, irrigating and cultivating new land, deforestation, very big factor, large-scale expansion of agriculture and engineering resources, construction of dams, artificial lakes, irrigation schemes, clearing of forests, all these lead to the changing of the biting habits of the blood-sucking vectors and alteration in the population of reservoir animals. It has led to the spread of so many infections. And the best example I have given, that is nothing but the Tyson forest disease KFD, transmitted by the Haemophilus spiningera. And the only thing is that this thick species, this cashew type of the gardens are there. In that garden, we have developed and in which the infection of this particular parasite occurs. The handling animal by products and waste, that is occupational hazard, that is known to everybody. Then increase the movement of man-land development. Of course, this is come along with our type of the revolution we are making, and that's why engineering project work, pilgrimage, tourism, expose the people to the contaminated food and water, leading to the diseases like amoebiasis. The amoebiasis and giardiasis, they are also termed as traveler's diarrhea. Then increase the trade in animal products. Countries which import hides, wool, bone meal, meat, etc. from an area where some of the zoonoses are endemic are likely to be introduced to the disease into the other territories. Then increase the density of animal population. Animals may carry potential risk of increased frequency of zoonotic agents. And then last, transportation of virus infected with mosquitoes. So mosquitoes are transmitted, chikungunya, fever, like that. Now here, I have tried to summarize few of the parasites which are of zoonotic importance and according to their classification. I will cover all the parasites which are of zoonotic importance, and lastly I will cover 6 to 7 parasites in detail which are of highly zoonotic importance. Now from the tapeworm, that is Hymenopsis nana, Hymenopsis diminuta, this is also of zoonotic importance, but the more important is Diphyllobothrium latum, Dipylidium guianum, and then Spirometra mansoni. Spirometra mansoni causes spurganosis in human being. The human act as accidental secondary host. Now, I will just go through the Spirometra mansoni and Diphyllobothrium latum one and the same. That they are procercoid. First stage develop in the first intermediate coat, that is the cyclops. We are calling it them as a water fleas, and same are consumed feces. And when such feces are consumed by the human being without proper cooking, then the infection of Diphyllobothrium latum occurs. And coming to the Spirometra mansoni, in this case, the frogs and amphibians, they act as a second intermediate host, and the tadpole of this or their flesh is used for the dressing of the human being. At that time, the second stage, second in metacystode of this parasite get transmitted to the human being, and it develops in the human muscle. We call it as a spurganosis disease. And this is a very important, and that's why this is the only one tapeworm whose infection can occur from intermediate host to intermediate host. Otherwise, in all the cystodes, trematodes, or nematodes, intermediate host to intermediate host infection do not occur. And the best example I am always putting, hydatid cyst. If hydatid cyst is present in the muscles of sheep or goat, it is not transmissible to the human being, because human is also intermediate host, sheep and goat is also intermediate host, and hence intermediate host to intermediate host transmission of hydatid cyst is not possible. Only one tapeworm is exception to that. We call it as a Spirometra mansoni, from whose the second intermediate host, human act as accidental second intermediate host, who may receive the spurgana, and the spurganosis disease may do occur in case of the human being. Then coming to the very important tapeworms which are of zoonotic importance. Let us first think about two tapeworms, Tennia solium and Tania Saginata. Man himself is the definitive host. Means these tapeworms are present in the intestine of the human being. You will surprise their length is in meters, not in centimeter. And remember, if it carries 1,000 proglottids, such 2 to 3 meter length, one tapeworm is present in the intestine of the human being, how much nutrients of the human being it might be consuming. And it daily produces more than 1 lakh eggs. And along with the proglottids, they are passed for Tennia Saginata. Cattle act as an intermediate host. And in the muscles of cattle, Cysticercus bovis develops. And due to the presence of this Cysticercus bovis, we call it as a measly bee. This particular parasite is not important in India. The reason is that in India, we are banned the cow slaughter. That's why we consider cow as a holy cow. And that's why this parasite is not much important in human being in the India. So we omit this. We are not going to think. Only to make the concept clear, I have put this here. Now, Tennia solium is very important parasite in Indian conditions, particularly the areas of low socio-economic grade. What is this Tennia solium parasite? Its eggs, proglottids are passed in the fecal matter. They are taken by the pigs, and that's why the sewage water care must be taken. In the pig muscle, Cysticercus cellulose develops, and if such pork, we call it as a measly pork, if without proper cooking is taken by the human being, infection of this tapeworm can occur. In another way, this tapeworm is very important from the human point of view because you will surprise to listen this Tennia solium, though you have learned in your UG, in second year or third year, you might have got the parasitology course. All veterinarians, please recollect their knowledge during their UG teaching. That Tennia solium is very important parasite from the human point of view. The reason is that human may acquire the infection from the pigs. That is one thing. It results into the presence of worm in the intestine. But the second importance of this particular parasite is that due to the reverse peristaltic movement, this parasite again come up in the intestinal tract, its eggs are released, and human being who is a definitive host of this particular parasite also acts as intermediate host. And through the eggs of this parasite, which the proglottids has come up due to the reverse peristaltic movement, these eggs develop in the different musculature and different body parts as a cysticercus. And when such a cysticercus develops in the brain, we call it as a neurocystocercosis disease. Very dangerous one. That's why Tennia solium parasite is a danger in the Indian condition that I have told. Then another tapeworm of very dangerous nature, and we call it as a Echinococcus granulosus. It has got the 3 more species: Echinococcus multilocularis, Echinococcus oligatus, Echinococcus hogeli. The definitive hosts which are there that I have written here, particularly the canines are the definitive host, and intermediate hosts are sheep, goat, cattle, buffalo, and man. Man is independently the intermediate host. It will not acquire the infection from sheep, goat, cattle. But sheep, goat, cattle do suffer from disease hydatidiosis. And the Echinococcus granulosus, which produces, is known as the cystic echinococcosis. Unilocular cysts occur in liver, lung, and 2 other organs, and they spoil the functioning of this particular organ. Then rest of the 3 species, particularly Echinococcus multilocularis, it causes alveolar echinococcosis, Then Echinococcus oligarthus and Echinococcus hogeli, they causes polycystic echinococcosis. But Echinococcus granulosus transmitted from pet dogs to the domesticated animals and man, resulting into the hydatidosis disease. It produces cystic echinococcosis. So the taking care of our pets, that I will come to the when I will be covering last slide, that how to take care of our pets so that we can avoid the infection of this particular tapeworm, Echinococcus granulosus. Then coming to the very least type of the important parasites, that is the nematodes, Fasciola gigantica, Dicrocilium dendriticum, Opisthorchis, Clonorchis, Nanophytus, and Heterophysis. Friends, these are the nematodes. More particularly, they may require 2 intermediate hosts in their life cycle, and their maximum time their infection occur either to the people who are taking ants or cyprinid fish. Like that, the infection may occur to the human being. One interesting story is there, that is the heterophysis. It is a nematode parasite whose the first intermediate host is snail. Second intermediate host is one fish, Mugil capito. And in Egypt-like country, there is one dish served to the guest. We call it as a basic. When this dish is served, during the serving of this particular dish, we call it as a basic, the infection of this heterophysis may occur because the cercarial stages of this particular parasite may be present in the muscles of this particular Mugil capito. So these infections, they are occurring through the feces to the human being. Friends, we are lucky enough in Indian conditions. We are the people much interested taking the food which is properly cooked. And hence, we do receive very least number of the parasitic diseases which are transmitted through such food animals. And it is a good habit also that we are taking a very properly cooked type of the food. Coming to the Fasciolopsis busci, whose Circadia are gathered on the chestnuts, and peeling of the cover of these nuts may cause the infection in human beings. Particularly, this infection occurs in the children. So, properly boiling of these chestnuts may suffice the purpose for the control. Then coming to the Paragonimus westermani, its transmission takes place through the consumption of the crabs and crayfishes. Then Gastrodiscoides hominis. Then coming to the another group of the nematode parasites known as Schistosoma group. For Schistosoma group, I'm very sorry, I will take a little water. For Schistosoma group, for few species, human being himself is definitive host. No question about it. This is the Schistosoma. But for few Schistosoma species, very interesting type of the zoonotic disease infection occur, which is also known as rice paddy itch, dhobi itch, or so many common names has been given in the Indian condition. So I want to just go through for 2 minutes through this particular parasite. Now, when Schistosoma eggs are discharged, maybe the cattle schistosomes, maybe the other animal schistosomes, sheep, goat, like that. Their schistosomes, when such fecal matter get mixed with the water, the myracidium enters into the snail, and from snail, after completion of the development, Circadia are released in the water. And when human being enters into such water body, the Circaria of non-human species, that means the human being is not definitive host of that. The definitive host is sheep, goat, cattle, or other animals. Their Schistosoma species, whose Circaria are present in the water, and when human being enter into such water body, or it is using that particular water for the irrigation purpose, that particular water for washing of the clothes, to the hands and to the legs, This Circaria, we call it as a Parasitic Circaria. They enter into the skin of the human being and dermatitis-like lesions are produced. And it is known as Circarial dermatitis, or common names are given as a rice paddy itch. That means when the irrigation is carried out in the rice paddy field, rice paddy itch or dhobi itch. That means when the water is used for the washing of the clothes. So this is the schistosoma I have covered. Then coming to the species of nematode origin. In nematode origin, there are Toxoplasma canis. This is a parasite of the dog. Toxoplasma cati. That is the parasite of the cat, whose eggs are passed in the fecal matter, and when they develop into the L2 larva, that particular fecal sample, when it is deposited in the garden soil or other public places, in the soil, that eggs used to develop. And when human children, they are playing there, if it is an ankylostoma eggs, that larvae enters through the skin, and in the children, cutaneous larva migrans condition is developed. Whereas if it is a Toxoplasma cati and Toxoplasma canis, the eggs are consumed through the oral route, and in that case, larvae migrate in the different visceral organs. That's why it is known as the visceral larva migrans. Cutaneous larva migrans and visceral larva migrans, these are the two conditions produced by the larval stages of the dog nematodes, and these are present in the children. So proper care and proper hygiene is needed, and the pets, particularly stray pets or pets, they shall not be allowed to defecate at the common places, public places, gardens, etc., park, like that. And then coming to the Gongylonema pulchrum, it is also a parasite whose transmission takes place through the Bacteria germanica, that is the Coprophagus bitters. Then coming to the parasites of protozoan origin, that is the Entamoeba histolytica, that is the amoebiasis and giardiasis. These two parasites we have already seen. Entamoeba histolytica, this is also called as the traveler's diarrhea. Previously, due to the mixing of human excreta or sewer sewage water in the water bodies, if same water has been again supplied for the human drinking purpose, the infection is going to occur. But nowadays, purified water and bottled water is used. This particular problem of Entamoeba and giardiasis has come down. Then coming to the Leishmania tropica, Leishmania donohona. Leishmania donovani causes Kala-Azar, and Leishmania tropica causes, that is the cutaneous leishmaniosis. This particular, these two particular parasites of zoonotic importance, dog to human, human to dog. More particularly, man is called as the reservoir for this, and the phlebotomous flies play an important role for the transmission of this particular parasite. They pick up this mustard form. When they are in the fly body, they become promustard form, and again when fly bites, they used to convert into the mustard form, and in the different organs they develop. In India, particularly Bihar, UP, and some other states, these particular diseases they were occurring. Now coming to the other parasites, that is the Trypanosoma rhodensia and Trypanosoma gambensi. These two parasites do not occur in Indian conditions. The reason is that though they cause a sleeping sickness, but their transmission requires Glossina flies, which are not present in Indian conditions, and hence no question of thinking about this particular parasite. Then coming to the Trypanosoma cruzi, that is the we call it as the disease developed is called as the Chagas disease, and the transmission takes place through bed bugs. Now, when I was in school days, at that time the heavy population of the bugs was there. Nowadays, most of the time it is told that the bugs are eradicated, but at few cities again the bugs are present, and its transmission takes place by the bugs. And the interesting story is that when bug bites, through oral route, through salivary route, transmission is not occur. At the site of the bite to the human, this bug takes the turn and again defecate on the same wound. At that time, the transmission of this particular parasite takes place in the human being. So Trypanosoma cruzi, this is the Chagas disease, very important disease. And on the skin, there are certain lesions developed. They are the chagoma. Not much prevalent in Indian conditions. This is the Trypanosoma cruzi disease. And coming to the giardiosis, I will not go in detail. I have already covered the giardiosis disease. Now coming to the recently emerging cryptosporidiosis. Cryptosporidium is the parasite which is getting recently emerged as a zoonotic parasite, and the transmission takes place from cow calf, that is the cow calf, and to the human being. And hence the hygienic maintenance of hygienic condition is sufficient to wide out this particular parasite, that is the Cryptosporidium bovis. And then coming to the economic important zoonotic protozoan parasite, we call it as a Sarcocystis. I want to stress these two parasites. After this, there will be Toxoplasmosis, and then we are going to see the zoonotic. Now, in this case, on this Sarcocystis, I want to speak why it is called as the zoonotic important parasite, and this particular group, Sathya 0 group, more related with the sheep and goat, and the sheep and goat are involved in this particular infection. Now, the Sarcocystis has got the life cycle like that. In the life cycle, in the intermediate host, the schizogony of this particular parasite occur. And in the different musculature, there bradyzoids and tachyzoids develops. We call it as a schizont, or the more term is the bradyzoids and tachyzoids. Nowadays, they are not called as the bradyzoids and tachyzoids. They are called as the endozoids and cystozoids. Now, when this cystic stages develops in the muscle, if they are detected during the carcass slaughter, the total carcass is condemned. And that's why we call this particular parasite as zoonotic importance, economic zoonotic importance. And particularly the Sarcocystis, it causes the disease in case of the animals. We are mostly related with the sheep and goat, and in the sheep, goat, pig, in their muscle, the infection occurs. Now, what about the human, about this Sarcocystis? The human being is a definite host for few species, and human being is intermediate host for few species which are present in the dog and cat. Now, in case of the intermediate host, the tachyzoids and bradyzoid develop. And in human, in the intestine, the infection of the Sarcocystis cause a different set of symptoms. And hence, the Sarcocystis infection is of zoonotic importance because condemnation of the carcasses of sheep and goat takes place. So these are the, particularly these parasites, they do not cause much disease. Sarcocystis, when human being or the dog or the cat act as a definitive host, in their intestine, their life cycle is completed, but they do not cause much damage. But when they are present in the intermediate host, where their schizogony takes place, from the definitive host, sporulated oocysts are passed down the ground, and such a sporulated oocyst whose sporozoids are released, such sporozoids are taken by the domesticated animals like sheep, goat, cattle, and from these sporozoids, schizogony occur in the endothelial cells of the different blood vessels and in the different musculature, leading to the formation of tachyzoids and bradyzoids conditions. So this is all about the life cycle of this Sarcocystis species. Then for humans, Sarcocystis bovihominis, Sarcocystis lindemani, and Sarcocystis porcihominis. These are the three species for which human being acts as a definitive host. Now the protozoan parasite, that is the ciliate Balantidium coli, from human to pig and pig to human, the infection takes place, but not much important parasite, that is the Balantidium coli. Now, one more parasite is there, Toxoplasma, we are going to cover in the next slides. Then coming to the arthropods of importance, which are of having the zoonotic importance. Take example, bugs. Just now we have seen. Then fleas. Now everybody knows the importance of the fleas in the transmission of zoonotic disease. And nobody can forget about this oriental fleas transmitting the plague disease. So these are also of zoonotic importance. Then mosquito, they may transmit, but rather than to the arthropods, it is difficult to say that they are of zoonotic importance, because mostly they are involved in the transmission of zoonotic infections. But take example like scabies. Many times it is told that the scabies species from the other animals, they also cause the scabies in case of the human being. But the strains are different. And this is the infection of zoonotic importance. Now, in a hurried manner, I will go only few important parasites. The interesting first one is hydatidosis. I have already covered the hydatidosis disease. That is the hydatid cyst is metacystole, and the name of the parasite is Echinococcus granulosus, very small parasite present in the intestine of the dog. It sheds proglottid in the fecal matter, and when all domesticated animals, including human beings, when come in contact with the proglottids of this parasite, the infection occur, and in the body of intermediate host, that is all domesticated animals, including human being, cystic hydatidosis disease is produced. That means cyst, hydatid cysts are formed in the different organs of the human being or the domesticated animals. Now here is the life cycle. Echinococcus multilocularis is responsible for causing alveolar echinococcosis. That means its hydatid cysts are more specifically developed in the lung tissue. But if you go to this particular, that is the another, that is Echinococcus granulosus, it causes cystic echinococcosis, and the cystic stages may be present in n number of organs. Now here the brain is also shown. Here other organs are also shown. Maybe the lungs, maybe the liver, maybe the other organs. The hydatid cyst can be developed. And you can see the intermediate host is domesticated animal also. Intermediate host is human being also. But human being can get infection directly through the fecal matter of the dog, and it will not get the infection from the intermediate host, that is the sheep or goat. If in sheep and goat the hydatid cysts are developed, they are not infective to the human being. Now coming to the cysticercosis. Under the cysticercosis, two species are there. That is the Tania Saginata and Tania solium. This Tania Saginata and Tania solium causes cysticercosis. Human being is a definitive host. Means human being whites out in the proglottids in the fecal matter, and in the different domesticated animals, cysticerca develops. If such cysticerca are consumed from the domesticated animals, human gets the infection, because here human being is a definitive host. And the Tania solium is a particularly very important parasite. We have already discussed. It causes neurocystocercosis disease in case of the human being. So here is the life cycle. Now you can see Tennia solium, Tennia saginata, and these are the animals. For Tennia saginata, cattle is the intermediate host. For Tennia solium, pig is the intermediate host. In their body, this particular cystic circuit develops, and when the measly pork is consumed as a raw, the infection may occur to the human being. If it is a properly cooked, then infection do not occur. Coming to the very important disease, the toxoplasmosis. Under the toxoplasmosis, I am interested. Earlier, I have not covered this parasite, so I will take 2 to 3 minutes for this particular parasite. The Toxoplasma gondii is a protozoan parasite that infects most species of all warm-blooded animals, including human being. And cat in the universe is the only one definitive host. Only cat can hide out its oocystic stages on the ground. And when oocysts are coming through the fecal matter of cat on the ground, they sporulate. And when such a sporulated oocyst has been consumed by human being or any domesticated animal, or even including the cat, the infection takes place. The tachyzoids and bradyzoids of this toxoplasma develops in the body, and it is a very dangerous type of the situation. Particularly in the human being, the toxoplasmosis for the female patients is a dangerous one, may lead to the abortion-like conditions, and hence Toxoplasma gondii is a protozoan parasite whose intermediate host are all domesticated animals, and the transmission takes place through the fecal matter of the cat. Once again, I will repeat. Here I have given the life cycle also, how the infection from cat occur. Now, through the cat, human being may get infection through several routes. Even blood transfusion is also there. Even when, if the cat feces containing oocyst, that sporulated oocyst has taken by the sheep and goat, and if the milk of such sheep and goat has been consumed as raw, the infection of the toxoplasma can occur. So the infection of this particular parasite can occur through several ways. We will see there are 4 ways how the infection to the human being occur. Accidental ingestion of oocyst, that is the direct route. Accidental ingestion of oocyst after touching or ingesting anything that has come in contact with the cat feces. Then third, accidental ingestion of oocyst contaminated in the soil, not washing the proper hand or like that, and drinking water contaminated with the toxoplasma oocyst. Now here we have seen this. I'm sorry. Now the toxoplasma, no problem. In Assam, one report is there that 40.2% zero prevalence has been detected. Vishwas et al. In 1996, he has surveyed, and on zero prevalence basis, he has detected 27.87% prevalence of toxoplasma. That means the toxoplasma prevalence is very high in case of the human being also. So how the human get infection, that we also seen. The human being may get infection by several ways, either direct consumption of the oocyst and even congenitally from the mother to the fetus. Toxoplasma infection can take place congenitally. Blood transfusion, this is also one of the route also, and hence if you take the proper care, the infection do not occur. The discussion on the toxoplasma is not for making or telling the situation as a severe one, but today is the zoonotic day. If we make the people aware that take care of hygiene, is more than sufficient so that so many cases of the toxoplasma can be avoided. So Toxoplasma gondii infection coming from the cat by several ways, and all domesticated animals, including human being, is an intermediate host. In their muscle, the tracheozoids and bradyzoids of the Toxoplasma gondii can develop. Now coming to the Sarcocystis, I have already covered, so I will not go in detail about the Sarcocystis. You can see here, I have enlisted the species of the Sarcocystis, and the name is given after the life cycle, which is the intermediate host and which is the definitive host. Suppose cattle dog, Sarcocystis cruzi, it is also known as bovicanis. That means canine is the definitive host, bovis is the intermediate host. Like that, the names has been developed. This is the life cycle of the Sarcocystis. We have already discussed this particular life cycle. Then, in case of the human being, what type of the clinical findings are occur, that I have discussed here. In case of the human being, the Sarcocystis occur in two ways, intestinal form and muscle form. In the muscle form, it is giving more pains, muscle spasms or like that. Then coming to the Toxocara, we have already seen what is the Toxocara canis infection. That is it is responsible for causing the visceral larva migrans, and defecation by dog and cat at the public places is the main reason for that. Here, their eggs develop into the L2 larva. It is mixed in the soil. And here, one point I have to mention, now you can see this particular thing, external environment. The larva which is developed, it is under the tough covering of the egg. And that's why such a larva can survive years together in the soil. And when such a soil has been consumed along with the not properly trimmed off males or the children, the infection may likely to happen. And this is and in that case, visceral larva migrans may result. And if it is an ankylostoma caninum infection, that is again a parasite of dog, their larvae may penetrate through the skin of the children. It results into the condition known as cutaneous larva migrans. But friends, nowadays people are much aware. Those who are visiting the public places, they used to take properly care of their kids, and that's why the infection is not much one, but does not mean that we should not take the care. So this is all about the one more parasite. Now the last parasite probably I will discuss at length. That is the Trichinella spiralis, economic important zoonotic parasite, and very interesting life cycle. Though you all learned during your UG classes, but you might have forgotten. That's why I will just remind this particular life cycle to you people. I'm very sorry that I do not consider that you are not parasitologists, but just to recollect your memories from that down the lane. Now you see, what is this parasite? This parasite has got two types of the life cycle. One life cycle is present in the sylvatic animals, that is in the forest animals. And one life cycle exists in the domestic animals or the interface of the domestic animal and wild animals. How it is interesting that I will tell you. If the Trichinella spiralis is the only parasite who has got no pre-existence from the host. Trichinella spiralis is the parasite which has got no pre-existence, and for this particular parasite, all are definitive host, no intermediate host. Suppose you consider that the domesticated animal, suppose pig is there. In the pig, when the infection has been taken, at that time in their intestine, L3 larva, L4 larva, L5 larva will develop. Male and female adults will form, and the female will lay the first stage larvae. Again, they will enter in the muscles of the same pig, and in the muscles of that particular pig, L1 larva will develop. If such muscles are again consumed by another wild animal, the infection will transmit. Means infection of this particular parasite only occur through the consumption of L1 larva present in the muscle of pigs. Suppose wild boar is suffering and the same pork has been used for the human consumption. At that time when that particular infection has been transmitted to the human. Human being may also get the infection from the pig also, domesticated pig also. And the infection in the universe occur from one definitive host to another definitive host. And in the muscles of the definitive host, that particular larva develops. That particular cell is called as the nurse cell, and such a larva developing in the muscle can be easily detected by trichinoscope, and hence the pig carcasses containing such Trichinella spiralis encysted muscles are downgraded, and hence Trichinella spiralis is a parasite of importance, but it has got the zoonotic importance, economic point of view. So this is a Trichinella spiralis from pig to human, but human is a dead end. Because when the L1 larva develops in the muscles of the human, that has no further fate. But from wild animals to domesticated animals to wild animal, this cycle can occur. Even in the sylvatic animals, one life cycle from one animal to another animal to third animal can do exist. So it has got sylvatic life cycle and domestic cycle, and human being is also involved in that. And all hosts are definitely host, no intermediate host for this. So this is then there is one parasite, Toxoplasmosis. Very interesting that its infection occur when frog or fish is consumed or as a raw. At that time, the infection may occur, and its infection, that is the particularly cutaneous form and ocular form, is very important one. So undercooked frog or fish, when it is consumed, the infection may occur. Then amoebiasis and giardiasis I have already covered. Now this is a leishmaniasis. We have already covered. The infection occurs through the phlebotomous flies. Then I will not go in detail about this. Propozoids, and then cryptosporidiasis. We have already covered. Cryptosporidium parvum is the infection get transmitted to the human being through the fecal matter of the cow calf. So it is a zoonotic important. Hygiene is the best strategy against this. Now, how the diseases are diagnosed, I will not go in detail. Just in the slide form I have kept here that how the parasitic infections are diagnosed. Diagnosis of parasitic infections when they are present in the definitive host is very easy because their eggs are passed in the fecal matter. But the diagnosis of the parasitic diseases in the intermediate host is very difficult because no stage is passed in any excretion secretion, and you have to rely upon only molecular or serological diagnosis. And hence, when domesticated animal and human being acting as an intermediate host for the parasitic diseases, the diagnosis was a difficult one. And in that case, we have to suppose, take example, Toxoplasmosis. Human being is an intermediate host, and you will surprise the kits are available in the market, but the diagnosis may take more than 5,000 rupees for the diagnosis of this. And hence, when the human being or the domesticated animal, they are acting as an intermediate host for the parasite, the diagnosis is only based on either serology or you have to go by the molecular diagnosis. In that case, it is a somewhat costly one. When it is in the definitive host, it is a somewhat simpler one because it is based on the fecal examination, coprological examination. So these are some of the methods I have enlisted here because I will not get the time to share each and everything. That's why I have tried to sum up. And on the last slide I will come, that is the control measures, and I will give full stop to my speech. Now coming to the general control measures for the control of the parasitic zoonoses. And today, being a parasitic zoonosic disease, zoonosis day, we all together will think that we will take care and spread of the zoonotic diseases will be minimized. So what is the strategy for control? First strategy, remember, in parasitic diseases, first strategy is treatment of the affected animal or treatment of the affected human being. Such control measure will not be enlisted in bacterial and viral diseases. Why it is enlisted in case of the parasitic diseases? The reason is that those who are suffering, they are acting as main spreading agency for the other parasites, other animals. And that's why surveillance, diagnosis and treatment of the affected pets, human and domesticated animal is very much important. Then second control measure to be followed in reference to human being. Food, that is meat, milk, fish, nuts, vegetable shall be properly cooked. Water shall be from proper source, treated, filtered. Nowadays, everybody is using the bottled water. That's why no much problem is there. But still, where the water is used, that should be treated properly. It must be supplied by the municipal corporation, Nagar Parishad, Gram Panchayat, like that. Then hygiene. No open defecation, very important. Honorable Prime Minister of India has taken the initiative that every Indian should get a latrine facility. That is a more important one, and I think it is a very important for control of parasitic zoonotic diseases. Then coming to, because you see, Tania Saginata, Tennia solium, open defecation. That is a more important thing. Then control measures to be followed in reference to pets. Proper disposal of fecal excreta. No open defecation. I'm very sorry to comment here that when you are taking your pets in the morning hour for roaming, the defecation on the open may make several things complicated, and hence this shall be avoided. That no proper defecation, no proper disposal of fecal excreta, and control of stray dog and cat population. Then coming to the control measures to be followed in reference to the domesticated animals. Provision of clean water from proper source, divide of sewage water. Proper disposal of carcasses, very important, because when carcasses are thrown after postmortem of the domesticated animals, carcasses are thrown on the open. They are open for the dogs, as a result of which they are taking metacystostages, and many tapeworm infections are getting spread through this particular route. Then efforts to avoid feed pasture of animals not contaminated with pet excreta, because many times the pet excreta is deposited on the hay, silage, or like that, and same is consumed by the animals, the infection may occur. Then control measures to be followed in reference to the wild animals, that the encroachment and other things, I will not speak on that issue. Then special for the Sarcocystis. Sarcocystis, typical control strategies are to prevent ingestion of prey or raw tissues and to reduce contamination of grass and water. Just now I was speaking that the pet excreta shall not be deposited on the hay, silage, or the any type of the trachea or like that. And then last point, people's awareness, because you see, I am very optimistic and I am very proud of that Indian peoples are such brilliant. Once they will understand certain problem, they will take care. Because so many people in India, they won't understand this particular problem. And that's why they are not following the hygienic conditions. Once you explain them, suppose by dog feces, if you do not take proper care, such and such thing happens. If you tell them, they will definitely follow. And hence, we are the people, we are the veterinarians, we are the main agencies in that. We can make aware of the people regarding this. And today we have to take the slogan regarding on the zoonosis day that we'll make the people aware about that, so that they will take proper care about their pet excreta, about hygienic conditions, about taking the food properly cooked, about properly meat, milk, fish, nut, properly cooked. And for that purpose, use of print media, electronic media, social media, digital media shall be taken. Mind your earth, water resources, natural resources, avoid encroachment on them. Just now I have cited one disease KFT, why it has been percolated in the human population, because we are encroaching their dwelling, they are encroaching our dwelling. So mind your earth, water resources, natural resources, avoid encroachment on them. Thank you very much. I'm very much thankful to Sathya Group, then Alembic Pharma, Kornaniti sir, Santosh Shinde sir. Then I'm also thankful to Mira Sakre madam, who has given me the opportunity to share my views. Because you see, every veterinarian, they are one or the other way, they are related with this and they are taking care, but refreshment of their knowledge and the new thing they have to be told. And it should be shared because science always grows with the sharing only. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share my views regarding the parasitic zoonoses. Thank you very much.